Hi guys, it's Rick Shiels down here at Quest Golf Academy here at Pro Sports Village. I'm going to be testing now the Cobra F8 one length iron. I've just tested the Cobra F8 normal irons, or varied length irons as they're now calling them. And now we're going to move on to the actual one length. This is now the second generation one length iron. And if you're not sure of the concept, every single iron in the set, from 4 iron all the way down to gap wedge, is exactly the same length as the 7 iron. This is kind of been brought back into kind of fashion really by Cobra's tour pro Bryson DeChambeau, who moved to Cobra last year, and then Cobra brought out a single length set of golf clubs, one length set of golf clubs, and he's given it tour validation in the last 12 months by winning out on the PGA Tour. So there's a lot more interest around these irons now. The F8 iron, this is replacing the F7, this is more for your higher handicapper forgiveness. There is still a one length forged iron out on there as well, which I don't believe is being replaced. I might be wrong. So I've just tested the F8 with the 5, the 7 and the gap wedge using Pro V1s and GCQuad. I'm going to use that data to also in this review compare it to the one length iron. Now the two 7 irons, we're not going to see any difference. I'm just going to hit 3 with those very quickly just so we've got the data, but it's not really about the 7 iron as you would imagine. But that's just to show that the one length and the F8 exactly the same golf club. Pretty much the only thing that's different is the grip. One length always have the blue grips on them. Also feature the Cobra Connect in the grip as well, which I did talk about a little bit more in the review of the F8. Now this is where we see a big difference. We see the 5 iron versus the 5 iron. This is normal length versus one length, and we see a good inch and a bit difference in length. What does that affect? Does it affect distance? Does it affect height? They're claiming now they've managed to get over what they claim as the teething issues from the first generation of one length. And then we go to the gap wedge where that actually flips around. The standard length gap wedge is shorter than the one length gap wedge, which is 7 iron length. So I'm just going to hit very quickly 3 shots with the 7 iron, just so we've got the numbers. It's not really that important about the 7 iron, but just so we've got the numbers of the F8 one length 7, and then really the interesting numbers is when we come to the 5 and the gap wedge to see if it hits the right distances and the correct height we want to see with the 5 iron and the gap wedge. I'm going to hit 3 with these, Pro V1s, GCQuad, and then we'll hit the 5 and the gap wedge to really see the numbers. I say so that's 3 shots with the one length. And again, I'm not expecting anything, that was a bit left. Not expecting anything different to the F8. We'll dive through the numbers in a minute. I think the 5 iron is where it's more important. So, one length 5 iron. So this is a 7 iron length. The difference between last generation and this generation is we've got a thicker bottom sole of this club. So I think that one of the biggest complaints last year, certainly one of my biggest complaints as well, is just what the 5 iron just wasn't not getting the height that you normally see with a regular 5 iron, just because the speed wasn't quite easy to generate. So they believe they've got a solution to this, putting a thicker sole on it to help bring that weight down to be able to launch it higher. We'll see if that's the case. They've also worked really hard on getting the shaft that's going to suit. So this is a brand new shaft from True Temper. This is a one-flighted shaft. And again, this is supposed to really suit these one-length golf clubs. They've changed also a bit of weighting in the neck and the hosel, and they've slightly changed the lie angle of the longer club. Let's see if it actually does anything different at all. So I was carrying the normal 5 iron about 215. What I need to remember with this 5 iron, I need to set up to it pretty much like a 7 and hit it like a 7, which I always find a little bit tricky. Let's see if I can do it. So set up to it like a 7 iron and hit it like a 7 iron. It's come out lovely and straight. Is it going to get the distance? Not really. It's okay. It's carried short of that green, where before I was actually carrying it on that green. It's come out quite nice. 204 carry, lovely and straight, only 5 yards off line. Let's hit a couple more and see actually if there's what the comparable numbers look like to the F8. Just looks really weird. The big thing that with the bottom of that club being wider, I can see slightly the back of the edge of that golf club bulging out of the back here with the 5, which I didn't have on the standard F8. I'm not sure if I like that as much. I can see why they've had to do it, but it doesn't look maybe as tidy as the standard F8. Another straight golf shot. The one thing I do have to slightly adjust is I still have to have that ball position more what I would see as a 5-iron ball position. I don't like to have it like a 7-iron ball position. And that's just a personal preference. I know I've read quite a lot about 1-length irons and where certain players like the ball position, but for me I still just like it a little bit further forward, like I'm hitting a normal 5-iron. I just have to stand like a 7-iron. Let's go for this third one. Straight down the line again. Now, those 3 golf shots are unbelievably straight, but I've got to let you into a little secret. I had to hit quite a few practice shots with the 5-iron before I started filming, just to remember what it was like to hit a 7-iron length 5-iron. Because at first it always feels a little bit weird and different. 3 good golf shots, so I can't complain about those at all. So let's have a look at some comparable numbers. Okay, so just at this stage, I've got all the numbers from the first test that I did with the F8 on my phone here. So I can compare it compared to what I just did then. Let's just quickly touch on the F8 7-iron. The carry distance I was getting off the standard one was 185. The 1 length was 183, no real difference at all. Spin rate was 5,300, spin rate was 5,100, no real difference at all. Peak height was 37 yards up in the air with the standard. That one actually just dropped a little bit lower, but I think the second shot in that row did bring that average down slightly. So I'm not going to read loads into that. It is 3 yards lower, but I'm not going to read loads and loads of information. These are just very, very debatable on strike, etc. Club head speed for both of the irons was 93 miles per hour for both the standard F8 7-iron and the 1-length F8 7-iron. We're going to expect that. Now I've got the 5-iron numbers. Let's have a look through that, and then I'm going to move into the gap wedge as well. So the 5-iron, normal length, standard length, I was carrying the golf ball 209 yards. With the 1 length, I've lost 9 yards of carry distance. The carry distance there is at bang on 200 yards. The peak height I was getting with the 5-iron standard was 34 yards up in the air, where with the 1 length, I'm only getting 28 yards up in the air. And this is where it just, the whole concept, unfortunately, just falls flat on its face for me. If I can't hit that 5-iron high enough and I'm not getting that extra length, I'm going to really struggle to play some of the golf courses, certainly that I play. Or certainly the shots I want to try and play when I want to hit these high 5-irons into greens. I don't really want to be landing it short and almost running it up. That's what it feels like I'm going to do with this. Spin numbers are pretty much bang on the same, 4,100. And the biggest difference, even the ball speed on the F8 5-iron was 137. The 1 length is only 133. And that all comes down to club head speed. The 1 length iron I've just tested there, I was swinging that at 94 miles per hour. The standard one, I was swinging nearer to 97. It was 96.5 miles per hour. So much, a couple of miles per hour extra speed just completely comes from the length of the golf club being different. Completely does. I was hoping for better. I cannot grumble with the flight of those 3 golf shots. But like I said before, I had to hit quite a few shots just to figure out what that felt like again. I can't grumble with the direction. I'd be frustrated if I lost 9 yards and also lost a good 6 yards in height. And also descent angle. Descent angle before, it was dropping in there at 44 degrees angle. That's dropping in there at 40 degrees angle. Not great. Not what I wanted to see. Let's move back to the gap wedge now. where now this is a 7-iron length gap wedge, just to finish off the comparison as well. Okay, so now we move back to the gap wedge, and this one, again, is a really important side of the spectrum to test this theory in. We've got the standard gap wedge, and then we've got the 1-length gap wedge, which is the same length as a 7-iron. The only thing that's slightly changed is the neck is ever so slightly smaller, and the line angle is ever so slightly different, but the lofts are the same. In fact, actually, just the back edge of that, it looks like on the F8 1-length, the top edge of that, slightly closer to the top edge of the wedge here, is actually a bit thicker. Whether that's to do with weighting, where you've not got that on the standard length. This always feels so long. I played the British Masters with the tallest man in Britain, Paul Strudges, and when I hold this, I feel like I'm holding his golf club. It just feels so long. Even though the difference is only a degree and a half, it's not much at all. And my biggest gripe with this last time, opposite to the 5-iron, this was actually going too high. Let's see if they've actually changed that at all. So same loft, 49 degrees. I've got 120 to the flag. I'm setting up like a 7-iron. It's the highest golf shot I've ever hit in my life. That just feels like I'm hitting an out-and-out flop shot. That is mentally high. That is so high, it's untrue. And mainly just because I can generate more speed. The more speed I can put into the golf ball, the more height I'm going to be able to get. 124 carry. I can't wait to compare these numbers in a minute to the wedge, to the gap wedge when I tested it on standard length. Let's go a couple more. I mean, I'm hitting out onto the driving range here, and I'm actually losing sight of the wedge as it's in flight. It's going that high. And I don't think, not even when I test sand wedges, do I lose the actual visual height of it. Let's go one more with the gap wedge. Not as high that time, I didn't catch it quite as good, but just unbelievable. And it's all because of clubhead speed. I'm sure, I'm convinced about it. I'm just generating so much more clubhead speed. Let's have a look at the numbers between standard and 1-length for the gap wedge. Okay, so the numbers are in, and we see somewhat of a similar-ish carry distance, maybe about, actually it's quite a bit, 6 yards difference between the standard and the 1-length. So the 1-length there on a full shot was carrying at 125 yards. It was going 35 yards up in the air. And just because it's so close, it's going straight up and so high, it just looks unbelievably high. If I compare that to the standard F8 gap wedge, I carried that 119 yards when I'm hitting it normal. Peak height was 32 yards in the air, and it's weird that it's only 3 yards of difference, but I think because of perspective, it's so much closer to me. 3 yards when I'm hitting a driver, I don't think I can really tell. 3 yards when I'm hitting a gap wedge seems like a lot, just because the perspective is so much closer to me. When I look at some other numbers, spin rate is slightly higher on the 1-length than it is, to be fair, it's pretty much the same. I'll take that back, it's almost exactly the same, around that just under 9,000 mark. The big one for me is the ball speed and the clubhead speed. With the standard length, I was averaging at 95 miles per hour on the ball speed, where the 1-length, I'm averaging at 99.9, so it's like 4 miles per hour more. Why? All down to clubhead speed. So with the standard gap wedge, I was swinging that at 88 miles per hour. With the 1-length, I'm swinging that at 92 miles per hour. So like 4 miles per hour more. And if you look, the 92 miles per hour, 92, 93 is what I swing a 7-iron speed at length. So all these clubs that are 7-iron length, I'm just swinging it that speed because of the length allowing me to do so. I'm still not convinced. I know there's positives in this 1-length idea. I really am. I just don't see, I think they had a great opportunity to really make some big changes in the way that the ball is flighted differently with the long irons and even in the shorter irons. And today I did not notice that at all. I could be still in the same test from last year, the same 1-length irons last year. I'm not seeing enough of a difference between the standard and the 1-length. When I say enough of a difference, I mean, I want to see a flight. When I picture a 5-iron, I'm picturing a certain flight, and when I hit the one length 5 iron, I'm not hitting that flight. It's much lower, it's losing me distance. It feels controlled, yes, but I don't know if that's kind of route of golf that I certainly want to play. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, I really would. Let me know, is the one length idea something of interest to you? Have you tried them? Do you know people who've got them? Let's start a bit of a discussion down below. I'll jump in there and comment as well. Just let's figure out what is this one length idea. I still don't believe that's a massive difference. I like the F8 range of golf clubs. I love the idea that it's got the Cobra Connect and all of those little, you know, cool pieces of technology that's blended into golf. I'm just not convinced about this one length idea just yet. Guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Don't forget to check out all of the other Cobra F8 range on my channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.